Hello, mindfulness champions. I hope this video finds you well and that you're continuing your exploration of personal practice and also bringing mindfulness to your school. And this is the makeup for the Learning Session 3 workshop. There was a lot of interactiveness and breakout rooms during this workshop, but I'll do my best to provide you with a makeup that helps you to get the picture, what we were practicing. And I really do strongly encourage you to do what you can to make it to the last one, which is going to be coming up in the end of May, because we'll have more interactive experiences, which are maybe a little more beneficial or engaging than watching the video. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so in the last session, we talked about stress, the autonomic stress reaction. How when there is either an internal or external event, which can be a real threat, like a car coming into our lane, or an imagined threat, thinking about the accident we were in, or thinking about a potential issue with our boss or a partner. So actual event or thought sends us into our autonomic stress reaction. So fight or flight. So that means that our heart is starting to beat faster, our breath might be more shallow and quick, our digestion is going offline, our thinking mind is not as competent. So all of this stuff is happening in our body to protect us, yet we don't need it to protect us this much. And that can lead to wear and tear and sometimes maladaptive coping, escaping, denying, and then, just a continuation of this process. This session, we were talking about resilience because stress for most of us is a given. Wellness is a skill. So we can strengthen wellness for ourselves, wellness, recovery, and resilience. So we have that stressor. Let's say it is that car coming into our lane, we're on the highway. We start going into some fight or flight. Actually, it's helpful because we're going to swerve out of the way, flight, or we're going to hit the brakes. And we're going to bring that prefrontal cortex back online through awareness of the body, thoughts, and emotions. So, oh my gosh, my heart is racing. I'm sweating. My hands are gripping the wheel. I'm thinking I'm really angry at that guy. I want to chase them down, or I thought I was going to die. Emotions might be fear, anger, relief. So that awareness with acceptance, that's the non-judgment, that awareness saying, this is what's here for me right now, allows us to bring our parasympathetic nervous system in. So sympathetic nervous system is fight, flight. It's the gas pedal of the car. Parasympathetic nervous system is rest and digest. It is the brakes. When we are rested and digesting, this is where we can really learn and grow and heal. In fight or flight, we can't really do those things because the body is just in a protection mode to help us to survive. So next time you're stressed out, the encouragement is to pause and turn towards what's happening rather than ignoring or fighting. So you might turn towards, oh, okay, woo, we got this amount of school left. This is where my thoughts are. My emotions are here. So we're being sincere and truthful with ourselves. My body is engaged. Okay, I'm noticing that. And that will help us to have a quicker recovery because that fight or flight really causes a lot of wear and tear on our mind and our body. So doing this helps us to come back down to equilibrium and recover more quickly. And that is resilience. Some people may describe resilience as the ability to bounce back. Yes, wonderful. We're walking and we trip over something, we gather our balance and we continue walking. That's great. Yet, with mindfulness, we have the ability not just to bounce back to where we were. So that was a physical example, but this is also emotional, mental, all of that. So not only to bounce back, but to learn. We're pausing, growing awareness, strengthening compassion. So when we do bounce back, we're moving forward with a greater amount of clarity, resilience, flexibility. A stressor plus no awareness equals reaction. That's when, maybe a student does something that like really agitates you, you immediately react. Might not be outside. They might not see anything, but inside, oh my gosh, yeah, I want a chocolate or a drink or I want to say this. So stressor plus no awareness equals a reaction. It's usually a habit that at some point was helpful. Stressor plus awareness equals response. A response is conscious. It takes, you have options with response. I've used these two extreme examples to help us to understand the ability of having a choice when we have stress or great discomfort or, we're highly worked up over something. I invite you to read these quotes yourself and take a few moments now to just reflect here. I'll read them and then I invite you to pause the video. Between stimulus and response, there's a space. And that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. So I invite you now to pause the video and ponder, is this true for me? Do I have a space in between the stimulus and response? If I'm starting to notice some options in responding, does that feel like freedom? To feel like pausing now. Okay, and unpause. That quote is it is attributed to Viktor Frankl. So he didn't say that exactly, but it's attributed to his work. He was a Holocaust survivor. So the epitome of the opposite of freedom, right? So even then, he felt that between the situation and his response to it, that there is some space there where you can choose how you're going to respond. We can modernize this and say, in between every one of our stressors, there is a space in between that and our reaction. Maybe now there isn't. Maybe you go from the stressor to your habit, like 0 to 100 in a millisecond. Yet, every time we bring our attention back to the focal point, we are creating a little bit more space so that we have awareness in between the stressor and your response. That awareness is what allows you to choose. Okay, that car just came into my lane and I normally would chase them down. Using the example from a recent class, I would normally chase them down, yet now I'm like, okay, I'm okay. Take a breath, call a friend, continue to drive to work. So there's a choice, no longer having to do what they've always done before, which was to chase the person down, honking at them. Next quote. As I walked out the door towards the gate that would lead to my freedom, I knew if I didn't leave my bitterness behind, I'd still be in prison. If you'd like, take a moment to pause and reflect on that quote. What does that mean to you? How does that apply to your life? This is a quote by Nelson Mandela, previous leader of South Africa, wrongly imprisoned for 27 years. And when he left, he had the ability to make a choice to leave his bitterness behind. Now, no one is saying that this is easy. This work is sometimes feels impossible when adversity happens to us or difficult things happen, to feel like I have a choice of how I'm going to react. And this is not minimizing, oh, just choose happiness or just, it's not minimizing that. It's letting us know there is hope. There is the ability to strengthen that spaciousness and awareness so we can begin to choose. And this does take work and it does take commitment. Yet, with consistent practice, even a few minutes a day, you're going to start noticing this is starting to happen organically. So I wonder if you're having any of those experiences. Has there been a stressor that's come up for you and you've actually dealt with it a little differently? You felt like you had a space to actually think about it and do something else? If so, please do put that in your reflection. This researcher, Suzanne Kobasa, she wanted to find out what are the qualities that resilient people tend to have. So she studied executives of corporations, ER doctors, EMTs, people with very, very high stress jobs, and those who show to be resilient, highly resilient. These are four of the qualities she found that they all had. The first one is control. What that means is they know the difference between what they can control and what's out of their control. So here I like to ask anyone, does anyone know the serenity prayer? Here's the serenity prayer. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. How often do we spend time and our precious energy becoming really worked up over things we can't do anything about? Highly resilient people tend to know, okay, I'm aware there's nothing I can do about this, but there's something I can do about this. So I'm going to do that. So maybe there's a component of something you can't do. Let's use a very simple example of, the weather. We cannot control the weather. You go out there, it's storming, and you're all wet and you're on your way somewhere and you're going to be there late, you're getting stressed. Okay, you can't control the weather or so what can I do? Well, I can call and let them know I'm going to be late. I can be very careful with my driving. Whatever it is. So focusing on what you can control. Next, commitment. These people tend to feel like there's something that they're making a difference with. There's something worthwhile in what they do or who they are. So an example of that is waking up in the morning and maybe saying, I am going to just be as present as possible, or get through my lessons plan, or whatever it is that applies to you today. I'm going to look every child in the eye and let them know that I see them. I'm going to be friendly with the new teacher. Whatever it is, each morning there is something that we have to help us to feel motivated, and we feel like even if it's a really tiny one, we may be making a difference. Challenge. The way that these resilient people see challenge is as something to overcome, something to solve, like a puzzle. So instead of feeling sometimes like how I feel, I have many, many problems weighing on my back and my shoulders. Oh my gosh. They see problems as a challenge. Take it. Yeah, I'm going to take this on as a challenge. And okay, how am I going to problem solve this and working on that? Lastly, and maybe very obviously, is community. When we're struggling, many of us tend to feel isolated in our struggle. Yet, we're probably not the only ones going through things. If we can reach out and be there for others during their struggles, we tend to feel more connection, and we tend to, with connection, feel happier. There is a study going on. I believe it's Harvard. It's the longest study ever done, 80 years. And it's, I believe, the predictors of happiness in a long life. Well, one of the greatest predictors is having a social network. It's not quantity, it's quality. Sometimes we are not blessed with having a family that we would choose, or maybe a lot of friends. So one thing that could be helpful is a coach, a therapist. Any of those things can be a substitution for having someone in our life if we don't. And if we do, then, knowing that that is some of the very important stuff of living a long and healthy life. You might be noticing, oh yeah, I feel like I'm really good with control, but I'm terrible with commitment, or whatever. Maybe you're noticing your levels with these different things. The great news is all of this is workable. We first need is awareness. Where am I with this? How do I handle stress? How do I feel about my social network? Do I feel lonely? Maybe I need to work on that. So all of this can be improved and strengthened, but we first need to become aware and see really what's going on here. I'd like to invite us all, or invite you, since it's just you listening, to stop. Let's stop together. In this very, very busy city, busy work, busy life, sometimes we are just on the go constantly. So we can begin to insert these brief pauses in our day and then grow them. So I'm going to walk you through this. If you'd like, you can close your eyes or soften your gaze. Sorry, that just kicked me out of there. S is for stop. Simply and consciously pausing whatever you're doing, including thinking, planning, writing, multitasking. T, take a few moments and bring your attention to your breath. Bring your attention to your breath just as it is. There's no need to change the breath. There's nothing wrong with it, so you don't have to fix it. Noticing the breath just as it is. If the breath isn't manageable, take a few moments and notice sensations of the body or sounds. O, observe. Bring your curious attention to the state of your mind. Observing if your response to that is what? Or it's blank, whatever it is, we're just paying attention. There's no right or wrong way that the mind should be behaving. Notice if your attention is wandering, agitated, sleepy, focused. And now observing emotions. So what emotions are present for me right now? Maybe there's a little bit of joy, or sadness, worry. Maybe there's a big emotion or no detectable emotion. That's fine too. We're just bringing awareness to what's here. Observing the body. How does the body feel right now? Does it feel energized, upright, heavy, anxious, tired? However it is, we're just noticing. And then P. P is for proceed. So then we just continue on with our day, or continuing with your reflection and this video. When we pause and bring awareness to what's here with that kindness and curiosity, when we do that regularly, when times are calm and or normal, we then build the opportunity to have this tool when times are hectic and difficult. So it's like learning to swim in a very calm pool and not waiting to learn to swim when you're in the ocean with the shark. So the encouragement is stop as many times as you can throughout the day. Maybe it's every time your phone pings right before you check your text. Just pause to the ping, take a few moments. I'm noticing my breath. How are my thoughts, emotions? How's my body? And then proceed with your day. It can be as quickly as 10 seconds, 30 seconds, or you can make it 5 minutes or longer. I want to share a little anecdote here. I had a private student. He was a retired Marine, an older gentleman, and his family sent him to mindfulness because he had some major road rage. And he and they were worried that he was going to eventually hurt someone. So, somewhat against his will, he came to mindfulness. It wouldn't have been something I think he chose. Out of all the practices we did and the time we spent together, what he most appreciated was this stop practice. I printed this page in the size of a Post-it upon his request, and he stuck it on his like the dashboard, so that every time he came to a stoplight, he stopped. He noticed, all right, my heart is racing. My breath is like fast. I want to hurt this idiot driver, or whatever he was thinking, the emotions. and proceeded in time. When I, said, how are things going? How's the driving? I said, it's not an issue anymore. I'm not saying he loved driving, but he was no longer a danger to himself or anyone else on the road. That's huge. He was having very habitual reactions to the frustration of other drivers. And for him to then be able to pause and practice that, even when he didn't feel like it, he was able to give himself this other option of just having this peaceful time without getting worked up and harming anyone else. So I apologize. Those last few moments, I thought I was on pause, but I wasn't. Yet, this is the time now for you to begin watching the video and practice for the mindful teacher training, where Valerie DeWitt will walk you through some practices. Please engage as fully as possible and practice the practices, even though we did this last time, because then the opportunity is for you to just role play this on your own or with friends. That would be great, or your family or coworkers. So what we did in the video is we went to breakout rooms and the groups all guided each other in practice to get some practice with that and to just get a feel for how that is and the challenge that it might be sometimes. So the encouragement is, again, once you've watched the video of Valerie DeWitt, is to practice guiding a practice or all three with someone else. Or you can record yourself and just see how that goes. I encourage you to just use your own style. Not all mindfulness teachers speak the same way, have the same energy level and everything. So just be yourself. Kids can really tell when we're being genuine, and that's helpful. Also, just do the best you can. There is no perfection in delivering practices. So if you're there and you're present with your students, then that's what's encouraged, present and open. That will include being open to any responses of your students, should you want to bring this to your classroom. So even if the child says, Miss, that was boring, then we could say, okay, what was that like for you? What is boring like for you? Or what does it feel like? Or whatever you want to ask. But we're not shutting anyone down if they don't have a response that is pleasant or positive. Because what we're trying to help kids do is become more aware of their experience. Anything we can encourage them, any way we can encourage them to do that by saying, okay, you were bored or you didn't like it. That's okay. You're probably not the only one. What was that like for you? Then they might learn a little bit more about their reaction to boredom or something being unpleasant for them. Of course, there's always the encouragement to invite the practices and not force, especially any children with trauma. Forcing them to pay attention to what's going on with themselves can be harmful. So it's always an invitation. What I'm doing now is I'm sharing some of what has been shared in the past groups amongst the groups so that you have a little bit of that insight into the kind of things that they asked and that we shared with them. Okay, I'm at the end of my part. Please contact me if you have any questions or confusion or concerns. Please contact me. And also, please make sure you complete your reflection and send that to us, because that will be your attendance for Learning Session 3. Again, final session, Learning Session 4 at the end of May. If you haven't already, please sign up for that. And please try to attend in person, because I think that's really just more beneficial for you in learning and engaging, if that's possible. And also, please continue to bring mindfulness to your school in whatever ways are helpful. Some ideas are newsletters, sharing research, practices, videos, and hopefully you've been receiving a lot of other ideas from champions in other workshops. There are 2 surveys coming up. One survey is going to come up in about a week, and that is to share what you have been doing and how it's going. These 2 surveys are part of what the heat is wanting to find out. Like, how's this all going? Is it actually helpful? And please give us just your sincere response and answers, whatever that is. That's coming out next week. The final survey to close out this whole initiative is going to be at the end of May or the beginning of June. So please keep a lookout for that. I am sure you are, I'm tired of hearing my voice. You might be too. So thank you so much for watching this. Know we're here for you. Any questions, comments, concerns ever, and please continue on to the next video. Thanks so much.